He died and returned with a warning. What will happen in August 2024? Hello. Welcome to another video on our channel. Here, we translate stories of people who have experienced near-death experiences and other spiritual encounters. Today, we will hear the story of Ezequiel Valdivia. He claims he died, met an angel, and received a warning about the future. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do it now. Leave a comment with your name and city. Now, let's hear Ezequiel's account. Hello, I am Ezequiel Valdivia. I'm here to share with you a story that completely transformed my life. It's a narrative about loss, transformation, and hope. It all began a few years ago, but the events I will narrate seem as vivid as if they happened yesterday. First of all, let me tell you a little about who I am. I am an only child, born and raised in a modest family but full of love. My father, Dom Jaime Valdivia, was my hero, my role model. He taught me everything about integrity, hard work, and the importance of family. My mother, unfortunately, passed away when I was very young, so it was my father who raised me alone. I've always been a man dedicated to work, focused on building a solid and successful career. I spent years climbing the corporate ladder, often at the expense of my well-being and my relationships. I believed professional success was the key to a fulfilling life, but the events I'm about to share showed me how wrong I was. Today I am a different man. I am married to Sofia Martinez, the most incredible woman I've ever met, and we have a wonderful son. We live in a rented apartment, nothing luxurious, but full of love and joy. I've learned to value the simple things in life, the moments with my family, health, and peace of mind. We are at the beginning of August 2024, and I feel like I'm on the brink of something grand. I don't know exactly what will happen, but I have a strong feeling that this month will bring significant changes. Not just for me, but for all humanity. It's a strange feeling, a blend of anxiety and hope that accompanies me every day. The story I'm going to tell begins with my father's illness and ends with an experience that challenged everything I believed about life and death. It's a journey of self-discovery, connection with the beyond, and a new understanding of what truly matters in this life. I hope that by sharing my story, I can touch your hearts and perhaps even inspire a new perspective on life. So let's start from the beginning. Prepare yourselves for a journey that goes beyond the limits of our physical world. A journey that took me to the gates of the beyond and back, forever changing the way I see life, death, and everything in between. It all started when my father was diagnosed with a terminal illness. It was a devastating blow for both of us. My father, always so strong and full of life, suddenly seemed fragile and vulnerable. Watching that man, whom I always considered invincible, wither away day by day in the hospital was one of the most painful experiences of my life. I visited my father almost every day. I tried to maintain a calm and positive demeanor, forcing smiles and talking about cheerful things, even when my heart was breaking. I wanted to give him some hope, some comfort in his final moments. But the truth was, I was falling apart inside. The weeks dragged on, and each day felt harder than the last. The antiseptic smell of the hospital, the constant sound of machines, the compassionate looks from the medical staff. All of this etched itself in my memory in a way I will never forget. I remember one night in particular. I was sitting by my father's bedside, holding his hand. He was sleeping. His breathing was erratic and labored. I looked at his face, marked by time and illness, and allowed myself to cry silently. At that moment, I felt the full weight of the situation, the injustice of life taking my father from me. It was that night my father briefly woke up and looked at me with a clarity I hadn't seen in weeks. He weakly squeezed my hand and said, "Ezequiel, my son, do not be afraid. Death is just a door to another place. I will always be with you." Those words were engraved in my mind, although I didn't fully understand their meaning at the time. The following days were a blur of tests, doctor consultations, and long hours of vigil by my father's bedside. I felt powerless, unable to do anything to ease his suffering. All I could do was be present, offer comfort and love in his final moments. And then, one August night, my father finally passed away. I was by his side, holding his hand when he took his last breath. It was a moment of profound sadness, but also of a strange peace. His suffering was over, but mine was just beginning. In the days that followed, I found myself having to deal with all the practical aspects of death. Organizing the funeral, handling paperwork, informing friends and family. Each task felt like an insurmountable mountain. But somehow, I managed to move forward one step at a time. The funeral was a blur of sympathetic faces and words of comfort that I barely registered. All I could think about was that my father, my hero, my rock, was gone forever. Or so I thought at the time. After the funeral, I entered a deep period of mourning. The days dragged on, and I felt completely lost. My father's absence was like a black hole, sucking all the joy and purpose from my life. I buried myself in work, trying to fill the void with long hours in the office. But nothing seemed to help. It was around this time that I started having vivid dreams about my father. At first, they were confusing and fragmented dreams. I saw my father at different stages of life. Sometimes young and full of vigor, other times old and frail as in his final days. But in every dream, he had that loving smile that I knew so well. One particular dream was imprinted on my memory. In it, my father and I were fishing together just as we used to when I was a child. The lake was calm, the sky a brilliant blue. My father looked at me and said, "Son, life is like this lake, sometimes calm, sometimes turbulent. But there is always something waiting to be discovered in the depths." These dreams were both a comfort and a source of sadness. On one hand, it was comforting to see my father again, to feel his presence, even if it was only in dreams. On the other hand, each time I woke, the reality of the loss hit me anew with full force. I began to wonder if these dreams had a deeper meaning. Was my father trying to tell me something? There were moments when I could almost feel his presence in the room upon waking, as if he were there, watching over me. Meanwhile, my personal life was falling apart. My relationship with Sophia, my girlfriend at the time, was strained. I became distant, locked in my own world of pain. Sophia tried to reach out to me, to comfort me, but I had built an impenetrable wall around myself. It was Sophia who finally convinced me to seek help. I began therapy, a difficult but necessary process. Gradually, I started to process my pain, to understand that grief is a journey, not a destination. My dreams about my father continued, but they began to change. Now, instead of just reliving memories, it seemed my father was trying to guide me. In a particularly vivid dream, he led me to a door of light. "It's not your time to cross just yet," he said. "But remember this door. One day you will understand." I didn't know it at the time, but this dream was a harbinger of what was to come. The door of light would appear in my life in a way I could never have imagined. As the months passed, I began to feel a bit better. The pain of the loss was still there, but it was no longer as sharp. I started to rediscover small joys in life, the taste of a good meal, the pleasure of a walk outdoors, the comfort of Sophia's embrace. But something had fundamentally changed within me. I was no longer the same man focused only on career and material success. My father's death had forced me to confront my own mortality, questioning what truly mattered in life. I didn't know it at the time, but I was preparing for an experience that would completely transform my view of life, death, and everything in between. It was on an ordinary night after a long day at work that everything changed. I was at home, exhausted after endless hours at the office. Sophia had gone out shopping, and I was alone in the apartment. I remember being in the kitchen, preparing a sandwich, when suddenly I felt an overwhelming dizziness. The world around me started to spin. The colors blurred into a confusing whirl. I tried to hold on to the kitchen counter, but my legs gave way. The last thing I remember is the ground rushing up to meet me before everything went black. I don't know how long I was unconscious, but what happened next challenged everything I believed about reality. Suddenly, I found myself floating above my own body. It was an indescribable sensation. I felt light, free of any pain or discomfort. I looked down and saw my body lying motionless on the kitchen floor. At first, I panicked. I thought I was dead. I tried to scream, to call for help, but no sound came from my mouth. Then, gradually, a feeling of calm began to envelop me. It was as if I was being embraced by a soft, comforting light. I looked at myself, or rather, at this ethereal version of me, and I was surprised to see that I looked different. My spiritual body, if I can call it that, emitted a soft glow. And the strangest thing of all, I had a kind of luminous tail. It was as if I was a human comet, floating in the space of my own home. Driven by a curiosity that surpassed fear, I decided to explore. I discovered that I could move just by thought. I floated through the apartment walls as if they didn't exist. It was an incredible sense of freedom. I left the building and found myself hovering over the city. The night lights sparkled below me, but there was something different. I could see auras around the people on the street. Vibrant colors that seemed to reflect their emotional states. It was as if I could feel the energy of the city itself pulsing around me. As I floated, I started to notice other entities around me. Some seemed lost, confused, wandering aimlessly. Others radiated peace and serenity. I realized I was seeing souls. Some recently departed, others that seemed to have been there for a long time. One of these souls, in particular, caught my attention. It was an elderly woman with an expression of deep sadness on her face. I felt immense compassion for her, and not knowing exactly how, I communicated with her. It wasn't spoken words, but a kind of transmission of thoughts and emotions. I understood that she had died recently and was confused, unable to accept her passing. Guided by an instinct I couldn't explain, I helped her find the way. I saw a bright light appear, and the woman smiled with gratitude before disappearing into it. This experience left me in awe. I was witnessing and participating in something that went beyond any normal human understanding. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a world of possibilities and connections that I never knew existed. But that was just the beginning. What would follow would completely change my understanding of life, death, and the purpose of our existence. As I floated through what seemed to be a spiritual plane, something on the horizon caught my attention. It was a bright light, more intense than anything I had ever seen. Driven by an irresistible curiosity, I headed toward that light. As I got closer, I began to make out shapes within that light. Gradually, an entire city revealed itself before my eyes. But it wasn't an ordinary city. It was something beyond my wildest imagination. The buildings were made of a material that looked like crystal, but emitted its own soft light. The colors were vibrant, more vivid than anything I have seen on Earth. There were hues I didn't even know existed, colors that seemed to sing and dance before my eyes. The streets weren't made of asphalt, but something that looked like liquid gold, flowing and moving under the feet of the souls walking there. And yes, there were souls. Countless of them, all radiant and happy. The most striking thing was the atmosphere of the place. It was as if the very air was imbued with peace and love. There was no fear, sadness, or worry, just a deep sense of well-being and harmony. I floated through the streets of this celestial city, marveling at every detail. There were gardens of indescribable beauty, with flowers that seemed made of pure light. Fountains gushed crystal-clear water, emitting a gentle melody as it fell. The sky above was a deep ethereal blue, dotted with stars that seemed within reach. The souls inhabiting this city were equally fascinating. They didn't walk, they seemed to float gracefully. Their forms were similar to humans, but translucent and luminous. Each emitted a unique aura, a color signature that seemed to tell their story. As I passed them, I realized I could feel their emotions and thoughts. It was a form of communication that went beyond words, a direct exchange of ideas and feelings. I felt a deep connection with every soul I encountered, as if we were all part of a great cosmic family. At one point, I came across what seemed to be a large amphitheater. Souls were gathered there, absorbing what I can only describe as pure knowledge. There was no visible speaker, but information seemed to flow directly into the minds of the souls present. It was as if all the knowledge of the universe was available for anyone who wanted to learn. I continued my exploration and reached a place that seemed to be a healing center. Recently arrived souls were welcomed with love and compassion, enveloped in a comforting light that seemed to heal emotional and spiritual wounds. Time seemed non-existent in this place. I can't say how long I spent exploring this heavenly city. It could have been minutes or centuries. The notion of time as we know simply didn't apply there. Throughout this experience, I felt a deep peace and a sense of belonging that I had never experienced before. It was as if I had finally arrived home after a long journey. Part of me wanted to stay there forever, absorbing that infinite beauty and harmony. But something inside me knew that my journey was not over. There was more to see, more to learn. And it was then that I noticed a figure approaching me. A being of light that seemed to have a specific purpose for me. This figure guided me away from the city, toward a new destination. I didn't know what awaited me, but I felt I was about to receive even deeper revelations about the nature of existence. As we left the celestial city behind, I took one last look at that place of indescribable beauty. I knew the memory of that place would be etched on my soul forever, a glimpse of what might await us beyond this earthly life. As I moved away from the celestial city, guided by the being of light, the scenery around me began to change. The bright light was dimming, giving way to a more serene and contemplative environment. I found myself in a beautiful garden with softly colored flowers and grass that felt like silky green. In the center of this garden, sitting on a white stone bench, was an elderly man. He had a serene appearance, with white hair and a time-worn face, but his eyes shone with ancient wisdom. The being of light guiding me left me there and silently disappeared. I approached the old man, feeling a mix of curiosity and reverence. He smiled at me, a smile full of kindness and understanding. "Welcome, Ezekiel," he said, his voice as gentle as a summer breeze. "I have been waiting for you." I was surprised he knew my name, but somehow it felt natural in that place. "Who are you?" I asked, sitting next to him on the bench. "I am someone who, like you, has made the journey of earthly life," he replied. "I experienced joys and sorrows, loved and lost, and finally found my way here. Now I am here to help souls like you better understand your journey." The old man told me that in life, he had been an ordinary man, worked hard, raised a family, faced challenges. "I died of lung cancer," he said with an ironic smile. "Years of cigarettes finally caught up with me. But here, I learned that every experience, even illness and death, has a purpose in our spiritual journey." We talked for what seemed simultaneously short and infinite. The elder shared with me teachings about life and death, about the purpose of existence and the essence of the universe. His words resonated deeply within me, as if awakening a knowledge I had always possessed but had forgotten. "You see, Ezekiel," he said at one point, "the life we live on Earth is just a small fraction of our eternal journey. It's a school, a place of learning and development. Every challenge we face, every relationship we have, every choice we make, all these shape us and prepare us for what lies ahead." I thought of my father, the pain of his loss. As if reading my thoughts, the old man gently placed his hand on mine. "Your father is well, Ezekiel. He has completed his earthly journey and is now at peace. The separation you feel is temporary. In the grand scheme of things, we are all eternally connected." His words brought tears to my eyes, not of sadness, but of relief and understanding. For the first time since my father's death, I felt true peace about his passing. The old man continued, "You are here for a reason, Ezekiel. This experience is not by chance. You have a purpose to fulfill, an important mission on Earth. What you are seeing and learning here you must take back with you." I was intrigued by his words. "What mission?" I asked. "What do I need to do?" The old man smiled enigmatically. "That, my young friend, is something you will discover for yourself at the right time. But know this, the changes that will come in your life and in the world are not something to be feared. They are opportunities for growth and transformation." One. He then stood up, and I realized that our time together was coming to an end. "There is more for you to see," he said, pointing to a path that opened in the garden. "Go forth, Ezekiel. The next step of your journey awaits." As I stood up to follow the path, the old man placed his hand on my shoulder. "Remember," he said, "love is the most powerful force in the universe. It is what connects us, guides us, and makes us grow. Never forget this." With those words, he vanished, leaving me with a sense of peace and purpose. Inspired and intrigued, I began to walk along the trail stretching before me, eager to discover what else this extraordinary journey had in store for me. As I followed the path the wise old man had indicated, the scenery around me began to change once more. The serene garden gave way to an ethereal environment, where colors seemed to blend and flow as if they were alive. The ground beneath my feet, or rather my essence, seemed made of solid clouds, and the air was charged with a vibrant energy that I could almost touch. After what felt like both an eternity and just an instant, I saw something in the distance that made my heart, or whatever it was in this spiritual form, leap. It was a door, but not an ordinary door. This one was made of pure light, shining with an intensity that should have been blinding, but somehow was comforting to look at. As I approached, I realized the door was larger than anything I had ever seen. It seemed to stretch infinitely upwards and sideways. The light emanating from it pulsed gently as if it were alive and breathing. I stopped before the door, awestruck. It was the same door I had seen in my dreams, the door my father had shown me. Now I understood what he meant when he said that one day I would understand. As I contemplated the door, I felt a presence beside me. Turning, I saw a being of light, brighter and more majestic than any I had encountered until then. Instinctively, I knew I was in the presence of an angel. Ezequiel. The angel's voice resonated in my mind, soft and powerful at the same time. You have reached the border between worlds. Beyond this door is what many call heaven, the realm of eternal happiness. I felt a wave of emotion wash over me. Part of me desperately longed to cross that door, to experience the peace and joy I knew lay on the other side. But another part hesitated, knowing it wasn't my time yet. As if reading my thoughts, the angel continued. Yes, Ezequiel, you are right. It's not yet your time to cross. You have an important mission to fulfill on Earth. What mission? I asked, echoing the question I had asked the wise old man. The angel smiled, a smile that seemed to light up the entire universe. You are a messenger, Ezequiel. What you have experienced here, what you have learned, all of this has a purpose. You must go back and share this wisdom with the world. I felt the weight of responsibility settle upon me. But how? I asked, how can I share something so vast, so beyond normal understanding? Through love, the angel replied. Love is the universal language that transcends all barriers. Share the love you have experienced here. Show people the interconnectedness of all things. Help them understand that there is more to existence than what our physical eyes can see. The angel then pointed to the bright door. Observe, he said. At that moment the door opened partially, and I was able to glimpse what lay beyond. It was a vision that defies any human description. I saw a realm of pure light and love, where souls danced in perfect harmony. I saw joyous reunions of long-separated loved ones. I saw the fulfillment of all dreams and hopes. And there, in the midst of it all, I saw my father. He was radiant, happier, and more at peace than I had ever seen him in life. He looked directly at me and smiled, a smile full of love and understanding. Tears of joy streamed down my spiritual face. I wanted to run to him, to embrace him, to tell him how much I loved and missed him. But before I could make any move, the door gently closed. The angel placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. Your father is well, Ezequiel. He is at peace and happy, and one day, when your mission is complete, you will be reunited with him again. I bowed my head, feeling a mixture of sadness and joy, of longing and acceptance. I knew I had seen something precious, something that would forever change the way I viewed life and death. It's time for you to return, Ezequiel, said the angel. Remember everything you have seen and felt here. Use this knowledge to bring more light and love into the world. With those words, I felt a gentle force pulling me back. The last thing I saw was the angel's radiant smile before everything vanished in a flash of light. The return to consciousness was like emerging from a deep dream. I slowly opened my eyes, blinking against the daylight streaming through the kitchen window. I was lying on the floor exactly where I had fallen. My body ached, but the pain was insignificant compared to the transcendental experience I had just had. I sat up slowly, looking around the familiar kitchen with new eyes. Everything seemed both the same and completely different. The colors appeared more vivid, the sounds more distinct. I could feel the energy pulsing in every object, every molecule of air. Sophia found me like this, sitting on the kitchen floor with a distant look. She rushed in, her face paling with concern. "Ezequiel, what happened? Are you okay?" I looked at her and smiled, feeling a wave of love so intense that it almost knocked me over again. "More than fine. I saw things. I experienced things you wouldn't believe." Sophia helped me up and led me to the couch. She sat beside me, holding my hands, her eyes filled with concern and curiosity. "What do you mean? What happened?" I took a deep breath, trying to find words to describe the indescribable. "I had a near-death experience, Sophia. I saw the other side. I saw things that completely changed my understanding of life, death, and everything in between." In the days and weeks that followed, I tried to process everything that had happened. I told Sophia about my journey, about the celestial city, the wise old man, the door of light. I talked about the love and peace I felt and the interconnectedness of all things. At first, I know she had trouble believing. Who wouldn't? But as the days passed, she began to see the changes in me. I was more calm, more centered. The fear of death that once haunted me was gone entirely. My outlook on life underwent a profound transformation. Things that once seemed essential, like money, status, and professional success, now seemed insignificant in light of my experience. I began to value human relationships more, love, and compassion. I started meditating often, seeking to relive the sense of peace and oneness I had felt on the other side. In some meditations, I briefly glimpsed that spiritual realm. Like a window opening to the beyond, my relationship with Sophia blossomed in a way I never imagined possible. The love I felt in the spiritual plane taught me to love more deeply and unconditionally. I shared with her all I had learned about the power of love and the interconnectedness of all souls. At work, my colleagues noticed the change. I was more patient and compassionate. I began to see each person as a soul on a journey, each with their own challenges and lessons. This made me a better leader and a more understanding colleague. But the most significant transformation was internal. I carried an unshakable conviction that death is not the end, but just a transition. This not only eliminated my fear of death, but also gave me a new appreciation for life. Each moment became precious, an opportunity to grow, love, and make a difference. I remembered the words of the angel about my mission. I began to seek ways to share what I had learned, not in a preachy or dogmatic way, but through actions and example. I started volunteering at a local hospice, comforting those close to death and their families. I shared with them the peace and love I experienced, helping them see death not as a dreadful end, but as a beautiful transition. I also began writing about my experience. Initially, it was just personal notes, an attempt to understand what happened. But soon I realized these words could help others. I started sharing my story on blogs and online support groups for people who had gone through similar experiences. The response was surprising. I received messages from people all over the world who felt touched and inspired by my story. Some shared their own near-death experiences. Others spoke of how my words helped them cope with grief or the fear of death. Meanwhile, my dreams remained vivid and meaningful. Sometimes I dreamed of my father, the wise old man, or the angel. These dreams always brought messages of guidance and comfort. As the months passed, I felt like I was fulfilling the mission I had been given. I was helping people see beyond the veil of physical reality, to understand that we are all part of something much greater. I was spreading love and understanding, one heart at a time. And yet I knew there was more to come. The angel's words about August 2024 echoed in my mind. I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I was ready for whatever the universe had in store for me. As August 2024 approached, I began to feel a growing sense of anticipation. The angel's words about this specific month echoed constantly in my mind. I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I was certain that something significant was about to happen. I decided to prepare as best I could. I intensified my spiritual practices, meditation, prayer, study of sacred texts from various traditions. I felt I needed to be as centered and aligned as possible for whatever was to come. Sophia, who had become my partner not only in life but in this spiritual journey, supported me every step of the way. Together we created a sacred space in our home, a small room dedicated to reflection and spiritual connection. There, we spent hours discussing what might happen, sharing our hopes and fears. Our still small child seemed to sense something was in the air. Sometimes I caught him looking up at the sky with a curiosity and expectation beyond his few years. It made me wonder if children, in their innocence, are more attuned to the subtle energies of the universe. At work, I began organizing things in a way that would give me more flexibility in August. I didn't know if I would need time off, but I wanted to be prepared. I explained the situation to my superiors as best I could without going into details about my near-death experience. To my surprise, they were understanding and gave me the flexibility I needed. As the date approached, I began to notice small changes around me. The air seemed more charged with energy. The colors seemed more vivid. Sometimes I would catch a glimpse of light out of the corner of my eye, as if the veil between worlds was thinning. My dreams became more intense and frequent. Often I would wake up with the feeling of having received important messages, although I couldn't always remember the details. In a particularly vivid dream, I saw the angel again. He said nothing, simply smiled and pointed to a calendar displaying the month of August. I began to feel an urgency to share my story more widely. I accepted invitations to speak at spiritual study groups and even some local churches, always emphasizing the message of universal love and interconnectedness that I brought back from my experience. As people listened to my story, many began to share their own mystical or spiritual experiences. I realized there were far more people than I imagined who had had glimpses of the beyond or felt that something significant was about to happen. At the end of July, I had another powerful dream. In it, I saw Earth from space. It was surrounded by a golden light gently pulsing. Suddenly, the light intensified, as if the entire planet was awakening. I awoke with a sense of urgency and expectation. In the final days before August, Sophia and I decided to hold a small ceremony in our sacred space. We lit candles, burned sage to cleanse the energy, and meditated together. We asked for guidance and protection for whatever was to come. On the night of July 31st, as I was preparing to sleep, I looked out the window at the starry sky. A shooting star crossed the sky, leaving a bright trail. I smiled, feeling it was a sign, a confirmation that we were on the right path. I lay down beside Sophia, my heart full of love and gratitude. I didn't know what August would bring, but I was ready. I knew that whatever happened, we had each other, and we were part of something much greater than ourselves. As I fell asleep, I felt a deep peace envelop me. Tomorrow would bring the start of August, and with it the beginning of something new and transformative. I was ready to embrace whatever the universe had in store for us. Here we are at the beginning of August 2024. The month the angel mentioned has finally arrived, and the sense of anticipation is almost palpable. Every morning I wake up with a mix of excitement and apprehension, wondering if this will be the day something extraordinary happens. The world around me seems to be in a state of contained waiting. The news talks about strange events happening in various parts of the globe. Unexplainable atmospheric phenomena, unusual behaviors in animals, even reports of mass spiritual experiences. It's as if the entire planet is holding its breath, waiting for something monumental. At home, Sophia and I try to maintain a normal routine for our son's sake, but it's hard to ignore the electric energy in the air. Sometimes, I catch Sophia looking out the window with a distant expression, as if she is trying to capture some invisible sign. Our son has been speaking about vivid dreams filled with bright lights and gentle beings. His drawings are filled with colorful spirals and shapes reminiscent of what I saw during my near-death experience. At work, I notice people are more introspective, more inclined to engage in deep conversations about the meaning of life. It's as if everyone is feeling, even if unconsciously, that we are on the brink of a great change. My own dreams and meditations have become more intense. I sometimes have flashes of visions, images of a transformed Earth, of people awakening to a new reality. I'm not sure what they mean, but I feel they are glimpses of what is to come. One night, I had a particularly vivid dream. In it, I saw the bright door the angel showed me during my near-death experience. This time, however, the door wasn't in a distant spiritual realm but here on Earth. I saw people from all over the world approaching it. Their faces glowed with wonder and hope. Upon awakening, I felt a deep conviction that a great revelation was about to occur. In recent days, I felt an urgent need to share my story with more people. I started doing live broadcasts on social media, talking about my experience and the importance of love and compassion. To my surprise, Thousands of people from all over the world have connected, sharing their own stories and expressing a similar feeling that something significant is about to happen. Last night, while meditating in our sacred space, I experienced an overwhelming sense of divine presence. It was as if the veil between worlds had become thinner than ever. I felt a wave of unconditional love envelop me, so powerful that tears streamed down my face. When I opened my eyes, I saw that Sophia, who had been meditating with me, was also in tears. We didn't need to say anything. We both knew we had experienced something profoundly transformative. Now, sitting here on this early August morning, I look out the window and wonder what the coming days will bring. The sky seems bluer than ever. The trees greener, as if nature itself is preparing for something grand. I don't know exactly what will happen. Perhaps it's a global event that will change humanity's consciousness. Maybe it's a series of small miracles that together will create a wave of transformation. Or perhaps it's something completely unexpected, something none of us could have foreseen. Whatever it is, I feel ready. My near-death experience taught me there is nothing to fear, that we are all part of something much greater, united by a love that transcends time and space. As I prepare to face this day and the days to come, I feel a mix of emotions: excitement, anticipation, a bit of nervousness, but above all, a deep sense of peace and acceptance. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I am not alone on this journey. I have Sophia, our son, and the certainty that we are all part of a great cosmic family. Whatever August 2024 brings, I am ready to embrace it with an open heart. And as the sun rises on a new day, I get up to face the unknown. My heart is filled with love, my mind open to infinite possibility. The world is on the brink of a great change, and I am grateful to be here to witness it, let come what may. We are ready. We are ready. We are open. We are waiting with hearts full of love and hope for the extraordinary that is to come. So, what did you think of this incredible story? Leave your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Activate the notification bell to be notified of every new video. Let's bring hope to more people that there is life beyond what the eyes can see.